The simple fact is, we live in a world that is scary. Whichever way we look at it, whichever dimension you choose, there is something out there which can bite you. The cyber world is no different. You could walk down the street and be run over by a bus. You could climb on a taxi and find that someone doesn't like your driver and you don't get off that taxi. Your house, perfectly safe when you go to bed. You may find strange people in your garden at the night, or it can burn down. This is the reality of the world in which we live. And we accept that because inside our own consciousness, we have made assessments of the risk and the benefits of the actions that we take. We have a degree of human recklessness, which sometimes makes that exciting and gives us opportunity for conferences such as this. But ultimately, it's about understanding the risk that we are prepared to take. Now, when we start looking into the cyber world with the modern technology, the capabilities, the communications, the benefits, the data sources, all of these little things that can make our lives more exciting and more interesting, we have seen that there is a benefit, either entertainment, for business, for development, for government. There are all of these opportunities. The flip side of all these opportunities are there are ways in which they can go wrong. And many of those ways are hidden to us. We haven't grown up with a mother holding our hands by the curb on the side of the information superhighway. We probably did when we learned to cross the road for real. So a lot of this is perception. It's a fast-moving area, and a lot of it is actually bringing this back into our own personal contexts. So I spend a lot of time on security awareness. Okay, it's not my primary job. The gentleman who actually does security awareness for real for me, I brought with me, Mangoba in the audience, gentleman who asked the question just now. He actually looks after most of the security awareness that happens inside Telkom. So I'm kind of stealing some of his thunder and putting my own spin on it. So I'm hoping he's going to forgive me for that. What we're talking about here is awareness. Now, awareness works at the school child with their first smartphone, the parent at home giving the smartphone, unpacking their first smart TV. Okay, I haven't actually seen one of these internet fridges in a house, but they like to appear at exhibitions, but I don't know anyone who has one yet. But it's a possibility. Also, though, many of these things are connected via businesses. Now, businesses are run by executives, boards, committees. Another area of awareness which I'm probably much more comfortable in is persuading the boards of companies that information security is a reality for their future business prosperity. We have the Protection of Personal Information Act, which is great. Fortunately, at the moment, not many people truly understand it. So it is possible to use it, how shall I say, in mutually advantageous ways to communicate scary messages. But the reality is, protection of personal information is something we should have been doing all along. Many of these cyber exploits, to follow on from Professor Van Solms, the Target exploit, where systematically 50 million of their customers' credit card details were taken from their IT systems. Okay? And the fact that they knew about this a long time before it became public. Okay? This is all part and parcel of the technology, the governance, and the regulation coming together. So it's not automatic yet. It is something we have to fight for. There are issues between companies where information is not shared because people believe it will diminish their own company's capabilities. It's an area where legislation has to come to the fore. But this is the philosophy behind fixing the problems. I'm actually going back here to very much grassroots basics. So forgive me if everybody in the room knows what I'm talking about. I'm kind of hoping everything I'm going to talk about is something you already know. In which case, I'm going to smile and say my job is done. But if you do know, please bear with me. I'm asking you to look at what you already are aware of and consider how that relates to you and everybody around you. So, number one question. We're talking cyber security. It's about information. Mine, my company's. So, simple question. Everybody here, I'm looking at all the electronic devices. Okay, I was being naughty while I was sat there listening and probably not making Professor von Solms any more comfortable. I was just scanning all the devices that I could see in the room. Okay? So it may be that I know more about the information on your devices than you do right now. Okay? Don't worry, I'm only joking. I know where your devices are. I didn't actually get onto any of them. We'll come onto that in a moment. But the point is, do you know what information you have? Simple question. You have a car. You know where your car is, hopefully. You have a house. You know where that is. The information that defines your life, do you know what it is? And since this is actually not just about your personal environment, everybody here is employed. We have a job. We work for companies. We have employees. We have employers. The businesses that we use or are part of has information that it uses. So let's start with the basics. Information about yourself. By the way, when we start communicating information security awareness in our company, and we're trying to scare our chief executive officer, we don't talk about all of the 3,000 servers he had in 14 data centers and all the connections. We bring the message home to him by talking about his personal bank account. It works. So think about this. Contacts and addresses. Yours, everybody you know. You've seen what happens when people get access to your contact list or contact addresses. They can send messages pretending to be you. This is the social side, because if you receive a message from me and you know me, just by my name on the top, oops, I've established a trust relationship that somebody else can take over. So knowing about these things is quite important, protecting them, or even knowing that they've been stolen. Your banking details, it's kind of important. I work pretty hard to put real numbers in my bank account. Okay, numbers, passwords, certificates, all those things that protect it. Do you know where they are? Simple question. If you think your bank account has been compromised, if you've lost your phone, would you know how to contact your bank and say, help? Okay, that's not such a simplistic question. If someone walks up to you in the street and points a gun at you and says, give me your wallet, you instantly know how to call the police. Okay? Same kind of model. If you tell the police your bank account details have been stolen, they will be much more helpful today than they were probably 5 years ago, but they're probably still going to say, call your bank, come back later. So we all have a role to play in our own personal safety, as always. Investments. Well, probably the largest investment most people have is their house. And if you're like me, my bank. Actually, they think it's their house, but they've lent it to me. However, at some stage, there is a title deed, major investment. Have you ever thought what happens to that? Because if I have your title deed, I've got your house. If you are swimming in the sea and it is full of sharks, they are not automatically all going to be hunting for you. They're going to be hunting for any prey that they can find. So the majority of our risk is making sure that we are less tasty than the rest of the fish in the sea. Simple as that. If someone wants your information, and I hope we can have a discussion on this, if someone says, right, I know this gentleman, I know what he does, I know what he has access to, and decides to target me, that is a completely different situation. But fortunately for the majority of us, we are not individually targeted, we are opportunistic crime. People steal our information because we left it there to be stolen, or we put out a set of breadcrumbs that says, I don't know what I'm doing. So, obvious things. We're all using IT equipment. These updates, these annoying updates, don't ignore them. They actually do work. Simple. Your browser that you access the internet. By the way, this is where I'm showing my age. Web browser for accessing the internet, a large number of people in this room will think that's quaint. The app on my phone accesses my internet service. The reality is, you do not just use a browser to access the internet. You probably use half a dozen different applications that you didn't even know were web browsers. They are basically information access devices, information access portals. Every single one of those apps needs to be up to date, safe, secured, using the passwords, using the protection that has been provided. So browsers are easy. You can go to browser check websites that tell you if your machine is moderately safe. On your home PC, especially if you've got kids, run a browser check once a week. I try to encourage my family to do that. Every time they want to use internet banking, I say, run a browser check, just see if anything's changed since last time. You would be surprised how often the answer is, oops, I didn't know that was there. Especially when we've had cousins to stay. You know the story. Your family, your greatest asset, sometimes your greatest liability. There are a variety of things. Locking your devices. That goes without saying. You need to set your PIN. By the way, those of you who do have mobile accounts and have data services and all of those things, those data connections sometimes are used as an identifier. If you haven't set a PIN on your SIM card, because it's really convenient not to, you are actually, if you lose your phone, that SIM can be taken out, put into another device, and it is possible for someone to call your service provider saying, I'm here, here's my identity, and problem. So set the PIN. You only need to type it in when you restart your phone. You don't do that every day. When I was picking up my email earlier using this nice public network, I scanned the public network before I turned on my VPN. That VPN was a private encrypted connection over the public, so I wouldn't even log my email in until that VPN was established, at which point anybody in the room doing what I was doing could no longer see my connection. So VPN for company information, access to your research information, these are kind of table stakes now. You should be thinking about this by default, not as they're a luxury. And if you are traveling around with personal devices, VPNs for personal use. So if you want to go onto the internet, you want to do your banking. These are all things that are available now in the commercial space for you to use in a personal and a residential space. What it means is, even if someone next door has got access to your internal home Wi-Fi, and you'd be surprised how many people can do that, they still cannot see what you are doing. So just remember, information is valuable. In a corporate environment, we struggle. Information is now classified as an asset. If you haven't yet done that in your organization, I can recommend it, because if it is an asset, it has to be recorded, it has to be registered. It will cause you a lot of bureaucratic issues, but once you have made that step, securing an asset is a lot simpler than securing an intangible object.